One of the biggest mistakes a player makes when entering a coaching career immediately after retirement is thinking they know everything when, in reality, they know nothing at all. That is the weighty observation of Carlo Ancelotti, one of the rare few who successfully transitioned from a great player to a legendary tactical mastermind. Those words are not just a distillation of experience, but a naked truth that the football world has proven repeatedly over decades. Understanding football as a player and controlling it as a coach are two completely different planets. Argentina at the 2010 World Cup is a perfect example, a costly lesson about what happens when a nation and an individual confuse these two worlds. Argentina in 2010 truly had everything to dominate the world. They possessed a genuine golden generation, a collective full of geniuses who had conquered Europe. At the center of that galaxy was Lionel Messi, who had just won his first Ballon d'Or and was at his peak of physical and inspired play under Pep Guardiola at Barcelona. Surrounding Messi were true masters: Carlos Tevez with the endless energy of a beast, Gonzalo Higuain with the killer instinct exploding at Real Madrid, and Javier Mascherano, the embodiment of a steel spirit, whom Maradona declared as Mascherano and 10 others. Besides them, their bench was the envy of any coach in the world, with Angel Di Maria, Diego Milito, who had just scored to help Inter Milan win the Champions League, or Sergio Aguero, full of desire in his early 20s. This was not just a strong team. This was a collective that should have become absolute champions. But standing on the touchline was a man in whom the world both placed total faith and never stopped doubting: Diego Armando Maradona, an immortal legend with the ball at his feet, but a massive question mark without it. The appointment of Maradona in 2008 was not simply a professional decision, but an explosion of national emotion. After the departure of Alfio Basile, the Argentine Football Association chose the most populist solution possible. An entire nation placed its faith in the Son of God. The hope was that the miracle of 1986 could return, this time not through divine feat but through his intellect. But the core problem was that Maradona had never proven his coaching ability. His brief stints at Mondiu or Racing Club in the 90s were filled more with off-field scandals than clear tactical identities. Yet people still handed him this golden generation because of what he did as a player, not what he could do on the management bench. The confusion between playing skills and management ability laid the first bricks in a tower that would later collapse. Argentina's qualifying journey under Maradona was a series of prolonged instabilities. He experimented indiscriminately, calling up over 100 players in less than 2 years, leaving the team without a fixed structure or a clear system. The horrific 6-1 defeat against Bolivia in La Paz was not just a loss, it was a historical humiliation. It was a match where Argentina looked lost in a void, unable to withstand the harshness of the altitude or the opponent's organization. Maradona said every goal conceded was like a knife twist in the heart, but in reality, it was his own superficial tactical preparation that threw the door wide open for those knives. Argentina almost had to stay home and watch the World Cup, if not for moments that were more spiritual than tactical. That was the goal in the pouring rain by Martin Palermo against Peru in the final minutes. A 36-year-old player Maradona summoned based on faith and dreams. And when the ticket was secured after a breathless victory over Uruguay, instead of humility to reorganize the squad, Maradona exploded in the press conference with vulgar words aimed at the media. "Suck it and keep on sucking it." That was not just a challenge. It was evidence of an ego so large it blinded reason, signaling a World Cup full of psychological volatility rather than technical preparation. Arriving in South Africa as top contenders, the glamour of the stars masked the fatal holes in Maradona's formation. He brought a highly controversial list, crossing out Javier Zanetti and Esteban Cambiaso, core elements who had just won a historic treble with Inter Milan. Excluding Zanetti to trust Ariel Garci, who was relatively unknown, was one of the strangest decisions in tournament history. Maradona also discarded Juan Roman Riquelme, the most creative brain of Argentine football at the time, due to unnecessary personal conflicts. Instead of a balanced system, Maradona built a super-attacking lineup, hoping to use offense to cover for defense. 3 group stage wins against Nigeria, South Korea, and Greece seemed like a forceful affirmation of power. But in truth, it was only a false light. Argentina played what experts called kamikaze football. Frantic attacks based on individual quality, but with absolutely no cover behind. Messi, despite not scoring, had to operate like a perpetual motion machine, dropping deep to the center circle to carry the ball. Because Argentina's midfield lacked a true tempo setter, Mascherano had to run non-stop to fill the vast gaps left by a system lacking organization. In the round of 16, they beat Mexico 3-1 thanks to moments of brilliance from Tevez and Higuain, with a bit of luck from a refereeing error. However, the most sober tactical experts saw the fatal flaw. Argentina was terrified of teams capable of organized, fast counterattacks and scientific transitions. And in top-tier football, individual moments cannot save you forever when you face a perfectly programmed system. On July 3, 2010, at the Greenpoint Stadium, the final illusion collapsed before Joachim Löw's Germany. Germany at that time was the embodiment of modernity, youth, discipline, and scientific organization down to the smallest detail. From the opening whistle, one could see the discrepancy lay not in the players' feet, but in the wrinkles of the two coaches' brains. In the 3rd minute, Thomas Muller scored from a set piece, and that was when the naked truth appeared. Argentina had no plan B. Once trailing, they began to get impatient and fell right into the trap the Germans had set. Argentina held more ball possession at 54% and had more shots with 20, but all were desperate long-range efforts or solitary breakthroughs. Conversely, the Germans played like a precision machine with Podolski, Ozil, and Klose. Every time they won the ball, they needed only 3 to 4 passes to tear apart Argentina's high-line and undisciplined defense. The second half of that match became one of the darkest, most humiliating pages in Tango football history. As the score jumped to 2-0, then 3-0, one saw an Argentina completely disintegrated in soul. Lionel Messi was painfully silent on the pitch. He was surrounded by layers upon layers of German defense, where Bastian Schweinsteiger and Sami Khedira blocked every space around him. Messi was completely unable to find a way out when lacking tactical support from the coaching bench. There were no overlapping wing plays, no triangle passing to escape pressing. Messi was a lonely island in the middle of the Germans' blue ocean. Carlos Tevez, who was expected to explode, also gradually lost control. His aggression and enthusiasm now turned into ultimate helplessness. His runs became aimless as he didn't know where to move to receive the ball. Meanwhile, Gonzalo Higuain completely vanished as the ball supply from the midfielders was cut off by Germany's mobility. A top-tier assassin became as harmless as a gun without bullets. Amidst that siege, only Mascherano fought alone, like an old soldier holding a collapsed fortress. The image of Mascherano running nonstop, shouting to direct teammates only to realize he was alone against a perfectly functioning machine, was the symbolic image of Argentina's failure that year. Maradona stood there on the touchline in a luxurious gray suit, but his soul was completely empty. He had no alternative solution, no personnel adjustment or formation change heavy enough to turn the tide. When Miroslav Klose scored to make it 4-0 in the 89th minute, it was not just a goal. It was the final blow ending an era built on hollow fantasies. The 0-4 defeat was not just a football result. It was the collapse of a blind faith that player glory could replace strategic thinking. The most painful part was not the scoreboard, but the feeling that the Argentines had wasted something extremely special. A golden generation at his peak and a Lionel Messi at his physical prime in his World Cup career. Maradona conquered the world with his feet, but on the management bench, he was just a giant lost in his own past glory. After the tournament, Maradona said he could leave tomorrow. And in fact, his reign ended in chaos just as it began. His departure left not only a void, but a costly lesson for world football. Maradona's story at the 2010 World Cup is not simply about failure, but about a genius placed in the wrong position. A person who could feel football with their heart better than anyone, but could not manage it with their brain. It never allows illusions to last too long. South Africa 2010 will forever be a scar reminding us that past glory is never a lucky charm for current tactical errors. Genius also has limits, and Diego's limit was the white line separating the pitch and the technical area, where miracles from the feet no longer had the power to save a hollow system. Looking back at that tournament, People remember not only Messi's tears or the Golden Boy's stunned face, but also an eternal truth. In football, having all the talent in the world is still not enough if the leader does not know where they are going. The reality of top-tier football cruelly brushed aside dreams, leaving a broken Argentina and a haunting question about whether history could have easily taken another direction if they had a true tactical brain on the bench instead of an icon who only knew how to lead with emotion. Willpower can move mountains, but in the battle of brains at the highest level, a warm heart is never enough without a cool head and a plan detailed to every millimeter. Argentina 2010 is forever a sad low note, a testament showing that even if you have God by your side on the bench, you can still lose if you forget that modern football is a science of precision, not just a stage for individual miracles. He lived a life like an epic poem, but the coaching chapter of that poem was a tragedy. He wanted to bring joy to the nation by recreating himself through his students, but he forgot that no one can be a second Maradona, even if that person is Lionel Messi. His failure was the failure of an excessive romanticism in an era where pragmatism and sports science have risen to dominate. His legacy endures, but the memory of South Africa 2010 will always be the starkest reminder for anyone who thinks football only needs love and individual greatness to conquer the world. Finally, after all the noise and tears, what remains is the respect for a monument, but accompanying it is infinite regret for a lost opportunity. Argentina had to wait 12 more years with a quieter and more scientific man, Lionel Scaloni, to find the peak they had long craved. That is perhaps the clearest answer to Maradona's failure. Football needs legends to inspire. If this story changed the way you look at the legends on the touchline and the harsh reality of the beautiful game, please subscribe and like our channel. We are excavating the history they tried to bury. Plant the seeds for the future. The next treasure will soon be revealed.